Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I hope you are having a great day. Let's start with today's stories. Am I the idiot for not telling my husband I went into labor? I, 32, female, have 3 kids, K, 12, female, L, 4, male, and I just gave birth to my beautiful baby girl Valerie. My husband and I have been married 5 years and I love him, but he's a little bit of a mama's boy. My mother-in-law hates me. I grew up in a richer neighborhood and my parents left me with quite a lot of inheritance money when they passed, about 13 million in assets. Mother-in-law, however, was a single mother with 2 sons and had a lot of trouble just paying for basic needs. She worked her way up and I think she is very strong. She doesn't like me and thinks I'm pretentious, because apparently I had everything handed to me. Well, when I got pregnant with Elle, we decided to name him Luke, after my husband's father who died when my husband was only 3. Mother-in-law was through the roof when we told her, but ever since I fell pregnant again with Valerie, she has been adamant that we would name her Francine after her late grandmother. My husband wants to as well, but I don't. Instead, I wanted to name her Valerie. And not just because I like the name but also because when I was 17 the song Valerie by Amy Winehouse came out and me and my family would sing it all the time. At family gatherings it was always first on the speaker, car rides, and just in general it was basically our song. Well, my older sister and my parents passed away in a house fire 3 years ago, and I miss them terribly. We were all a very close family, so it hit my and my younger sister, 27, very hard. When I suggested this to my husband and mother-in-law, they actually got mad at me, because they wanted it to be Francine. I suggested we name it Valerie with the middle name Francine or Francine with the middle name Valerie, but they weren't happy with either. During my last month of pregnancy my husband has become more angry at me. I finally snapped and said that I wasn't going to name my child an ugly name that I don't like for the sake of a woman that doesn't even like me. He said that I was being unbelievable and that I had insulted his strong independent mother. I immediately apologized, but he left to his mother's house. 2 days later I couldn't reach him at all and on the 3rd day I went into labor. Kay kept saying she would text my husband and I told her not to bother. After hours of labor and awful pain, I gave birth to my baby girl and named her Valerie, with Diane as the middle name. Diane was my mother's name. About 2 hours after I gave birth, my younger sister was able to reach mother-in-law to get the message to my husband. When they came in my husband was raging and yelling at me, calling me a pretentious backstabbing witch, and mother-in-law was more upset about the name. I think this might be the end of my marriage, but we can still change her name if we really wanted to. So am I the idiot? Should I change the name? Okay, I need a minute to catch a breath. Where do I start? I usually don't say this at first, because there's usually 2 sides to the story. But, divorce, divorce, divorce. Who the hell comes into a maternity ward screaming and cursing his own wife? And because of a name? A name. What the F? Your husband is insane, your mother-in-law is insane, leave him and take your children away from this insanity. I normally try to understand both sides of the situation. Normally I would say something like, it is not worth it naming the child with a name that both parents do not agree with, that they can find another name that both like, that naming the baby with a chose that your husband is so against it, can appear as a form of lack of respect for him as a father. But after his actions, F him. And his mother. Mother-in-law has no right to meddle and choose the names of your children. They are your children. Dump her mama's boy and let her ruin him, and you go take care of your children. Leave this crazy family. Now let's read what people said about this messed up situation. One thing I've learned about mama's boys is that they will never, ever, ever choose you over their mom. Get out of this situation, it's better to be on your own than with someone like him. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. You chose Valerie in honor of your tragically killed parents and sister. How in holy hell does he think that is less important than commemorating his great-grandmother, whom he probably never knew? You're financially independent, so this should indeed be the end of your marriage. You don't want your children growing up thinking it's okay to be treated the way you're being treated. I'm afraid you're right, it's never going to change. This is a mess. The name aside, a partner who makes themselves unavailable at the end of the pregnancy is not a partner. I have given birth twice, and during my first birth I was alone, and I could never forgive this, ever. OP, I would feel betrayed because he knowingly left you in the time when you're most vulnerable, knowing that you're about to give birth, just to spite you. There would be no coming back from this. And yeah, if that happened to me, all names we had previously agreed upon would most likely go out of the window at that moment because I would be planning to divorce him anyways. And what would you guys do if you were OP? Do you know anyone like OP's husband? Or OP's mother-in-law? Leave your comments down below. Now let's go to the next story. Am I the idiot for denying an older woman shelter from a storm? I, 23, female, am an avid hiker in Australia. Last week I encountered a middle-aged woman, around 50 years old, as I was coming off a trail. She was walking in my direction as I came out of the bush. It was strange to see her. The sun was almost down and the weather was starting to turn. Also, this was an intermediate collection of trails at best, difficult even for me at worst. And she didn't look super athletic. Point is, my weird radar was going off already. She walked up to me and stopped, standing too close for my comfort, gestured toward the clearing where my car was parked, and asked whether it was my car. No greeting or anything. When I looked over, something made me uncomfortable. There were no cars other than mine in sight. The trail I was on isn't crazy far from civilization, but it's not a walk away, one of those highway rest stops that's there for the trail and a few parking spots. No way she could have got there without driving. I let her know that, yes, it was my car, to which she responded something like, "Perfect, there's a storm coming, I can't be caught in it and I need to get home." She was very matter of fact. It seemed like she had already decided what would happen. Without waiting for my response, she started striding for my car. I am glad I always lock my doors because she would have hopped right in the passenger seat had the door opened. As she was walking over to it, I went after her, trying to explain that I wasn't sure it was a good idea for her to hitch a ride, asking why she was out here in the first place. I was talking to a brick wall until she realized the car was locked, at which point she turned around with this look of anger and frustration on her face. She starts ranting the same stuff as before. "I need to get home, a storm is coming, I cannot be caught in it, why don't you get it?" I was very confused at this point, and a little scared, as this woman was now a barrier between me and my vehicle. I told her something like, "I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable with having a stranger in my car." She stared at me down for a few seconds, I guess trying to gauge her chances at asking again. And just like that, the anger drops from her face and she's silent. I was really uncomfortable. I asked if I could call someone, if there was another way to help. She starts walking towards me, scary, but then right past me. I'm still asking her questions, then just saying things like hello and excuse me. No response. She walked to the other end of the rest stop and maintained eye contact with me as she sat down on a log, then just stared at nothing. I didn't follow her. I got into my car really shaken up and drove away. As soon as I was back in cell range, I called fire and rescue. They said they would send someone out. I was scared for my safety at the moment, but she was just some woman alone in the middle of nowhere. Am I the a-hole for refusing this strange woman a ride/shelter in my car? No, OP, you're not the idiot. I understand wanting to help a person who is in need, especially in a situation like this, where you are in the middle of nowhere or not having help nearby. But if you had let her into your car like that, you could have put yourself in danger. Unfortunately, you don't know what her true intentions were. Could she simply need help to leave there? Yes, she could. But you don't know that. Again, unfortunately, we don't know what's going on in the other person's mind, and from what you could see, she wasn't in imminent danger. And also you just didn't leave her there and walked away without giving any assistance. You called for help, you notified the authorities that there was a person in need in this location, and they went to help her and took her to safety. The problem is the way she approached you, the way she spoke to you, the way she just wanted to get in the car. Well, that is what left you, and anyone else, in doubt of her true intentions. She didn't introduce herself, or ask for help, or ask to borrow your phone to call someone, or for you to call for help. No, she just tried to get into your car and invaded your space without asking for any kind of permission. Could maybe you'd have stayed with her until help came, maybe. But in this situation I believe you made the right decision, removed yourself from her presence and called the people who could help her. So no OP, you're not the idiot. Now let's see what the comments have to say. Not the idiot, you called for assistance for her as soon as you were able. Good. Was there a storm coming? It would be an indicator if the woman was more or less stable, mentally. I can tell her attitude rattled you. You don't owe some random demanding woman a ride. Ever, but, was a storm coming? Thanks for your reply. A mild storm but a storm nonetheless. On my way back a light rain started up with some fair wind. Not the idiot. I think calling fire and rescue was a kind thing to do. Yeah, that whole situation didn't sound or feel safe. Better to let a professional handle it. Not the idiot, if you had driven off without calling fire rescue you would have been, but you did what you could to keep both of you safe. I agree with not the idiot, but OP's instincts had alarm bells ringing at this encounter, so even if they hadn't called fire and rescue, I'd still say not the idiot. You should always trust your instincts. Not the idiot. You did the right thing. What a scary situation. And calling fire and rescue was a much better option than having this woman in your car. Are you enjoying the video so far? Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications to know when a new video is out. Now let's go to the last story. Am I the idiot for leaving my boyfriend behind while I drove to our workplace in my car? Last night, I, 23, female, texted and asked my boyfriend, 25, male, to come down to the basement where my office space and new futon are. He replied not and then asked me to come upstairs to go to bed. He probably wanted cuddles. But I told him it was important to me, and I wanted him to come see my new arrangement/new setup in the basement. He didn't reply to my text. So I slept downstairs on the futon. This morning, I left without him to go to work. We work at the same place. He called me and asked me if I overslept. He assumed I was still at home in the basement. I said no, I left. He was in so much shock that he kept asking me, "Did you actually leave me? You're not at work." Then I tried to tell him, "I asked you to see something that was important to me. And you ignore me." He got mad. He said he slept through his alarms. You really left me. Over that? Then I tried to tell him again, "I'm mad because I said it was something important to me, but you." But before I could finish my sentence, he ended the call. How I feel about it at this moment is, if he's too lazy to drive himself, I understand. He has his own car, but if we're going to the same place, it makes sense to drive together. But missing your alarms? You're an adult. You should wake yourself up, and if you don't, you'll be late to work. That's on you. Don't rely on me to be your mommy and wake you up and wait for you to get ready. I don't know. I feel bad for hurting his feelings and literally leaving him behind. But at the same time, he's an adult who has his own car and his own job separate from mine. If he's late, that's on him. Why should I have to be late every morning because he can't wake himself up on time? Or vice versa. I don't want to make him late because of me. I felt so much better without the responsibility of taking care of him in the mornings. But now I feel bad. So, am I the a-hole for leaving my boyfriend behind while I drove to our workplace in my car? Okay, OP was upset that he ignored her, but her reaction was a little too much and unnecessary for my liking. Yes, we know he can get to work another way, but I still found OP's reaction to be extremely disproportionate to what he did, or failed to do. Is there something else going on? Is their relationship okay? Or is something else stressing OP? I think it's time for OP to look into this, so she doesn't end up sabotaging their relationship. Now let's read some comments before going to the update. Everyone sucks here. You both acted like petulant children. You are the idiot. You messed with a work routine because of a personal tiff. Don't mess around with people's work routines without telling them in advance. Everyone sucks here, because he could have taken 2 minutes to go look at the basement, but you're the bigger a-hole, because your reaction to him blowing you off was completely overblown and super petty. You're not the idiot for not wanting to be in charge of waking him up, but you are the idiot for the childishly peevish reaction to him not wanting to go down to look at your basement when he was ready to go to bed. You did this for the purpose of punishing him and not because you didn't want to be responsible for waking him up. You are the idiot. You are the idiot. You left because you didn't get your way. He didn't hop out of bed to see a room arrangement when you told him to. I'm assuming the room will look like it did last night when you get home today. So really was not urgent or an emergency. If it was so important to you, what was stopping you from walking upstairs and telling him that? The rest of the stuff you just added to justify your own actions, which were petty and in my opinion mean-spirited. You apparently have a routine in the morning, you changed it because you were mad. Holy shit, I would break up with you on the spot. What an insane overreaction to not seeing a effing futon. You are the idiot. Update. My boyfriend and I talked about it. He was not mad at me. He acknowledged it as his responsibility for waking up on time and getting himself to work. I showed him this post and all your comments, and he agreed with the comments saying the room would still be there tomorrow. It wasn't urgent. It was an overreaction to the situation. I agreed with him. I retaliated for a separate issue, in making me late, rather than communicating. He did make it to work on time for those wondering. Thank you for all your comments. For all the people saying break up, neither of us plan on breaking up over one instance. We have been together for 4 years and each of us have made mistakes or overreacted at some point. Okay, I'm glad OP and her boyfriend talked, worked this out and won't break up over this, but I still think it was an overreaction on OP's part. And what do you guys think? What would you do if you were OP? Or if you were OP's boyfriend? Leave your comments down below. And that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time.